Alright, we're live. Alright, this next video I want to talk about might be a hot take. And I'm traveling a little bit today, so I got time to talk about it. I want to talk about jiu-jitsu gym culture and its problem. I got my phone propped up here for some notes I've taken over a couple of weeks. This is a video I've been wanting to make. So I want to talk about the culture problem in most jiu-jitsu schools. And honestly, I feel like our gym has fought and worked really hard to produce a good culture. I'm proud of our culture. So a lot of these notes are biased on what I believe creates a good culture and the things that leaders within the gym need to be doing or not doing to create, maintain, and establish a good culture. So, first I'll just jump on the biggest one in my belief is ego disguised as tradition. What's sold as respect is often just ego wearing a gi. Yeah, this fake traditionalism respect blows my mind. That you go in and the person designing practice in class, the leader, teacher, wants to be called professor, wants to be called anything outside of what they are, just call me Robert, don't call me professor. They'll have you bow to pictures on the wall, having to ask permission to go to the restroom, having to bow before you get on and off of the mats, having to face away from me to tie your belt as if you're less than I. This is just fake, made up traditions. This isn't like we're doing judo in Japan in the 1700s. This is America, and all these bogus traditions are American-made bullcrap to try to sell you some fake respect through traditionalism. It's just not a thing. It's fake news. If a gym asks you to do it, red flag, leave, go find a new gym. So coach as God syndrome. That's my second bullet point. Some coaches stop being teachers and start acting like untouchable authorities. No question, no pushback, just pure obedience. Thankfully, in our gym, they come after me. They are trying to kill me every second of every class, and they question everything I teach. And I think it's a good thing. I think they need to. I think you need to question what you're being sold. And of course I'm selling skill acquisition, so you need to question the skill they're trying to sell you. If it's strictly obedience based, hey, do as I say, no matter what, not what I do, and another red flag. It's if you're having to put your coach up on a pedestal as some godlike figure, not here in America. That's stupid. Not doing it. All right, false respect through rituals, forced bowing, rigid titles, and empty formalities become tools of control instead of genuine respect. It's the same thing with these belt ceremonies. Like, just because other people have done them, just because you're doing some crazy turning judo throw after you get this new belt tied around your back, is so stupid. And nobody should be bowing to me. And the rigid titles of professor, it blows my mind. You need to have genuine respect. And that being said, we still do some bowing in our classes, in our practices. The only time we bow in our practice is at the end of the class as a mutual, genuine respect to one one another, but honestly, we do it as like a good gesture on how to end the class appropriately. So when we're done with class, we line up, we bow and shake everybody's hand as we leave. Again, it's more of a genuine respect kind of thing, not just false respect through rituals. The pedestal culture. This is a big one. Certain coaches and students are elevated for medals, favoritism, or proximity to power, not for how they serve the room. And big statement there, not for how you serve the room. Don't get me wrong, we need to have medal chasers, we need to have hammers, we need to have everybody, that fits the categories within the gym. But the medal chasers do not get priority. Because one, it creates a nasty ego in them sometimes. It creates a nastier ego in the room to where, they're seen or treated or looked upon as favorites. And from the outside looking in, it does look like it's a proximity to power type thing if that coach is trying to put themselves on a pedestal. So, but you need to remember what your role is as a member of the gym. Your role as a member of the gym is how do you serve your room. So it's important that you're a good training partner. It's important that you're pushing your training partners when they need to be pushed. It's important that you're lifting them up when they need to be lifted up. You're there to send them that meme when they need a laugh. You're there to be the shoulder to cry on when they need to cry. But most importantly, you need to be there and be their training partner when they need those rounds to improve. You're there to serve each other, even to a selfish extent at times. I don't know how to say that. Through that hard training, you're serving yourself as well too. But the truth is, you're not going to be able to serve yourself unless you're serving the others around you. You're not going to get good at jiu-jitsu just doing solo static drills on your own. You need to have a training partner, and if you serve that training partner well, they're in return going to serve you well. Authority without accountability. Loyalty is demanded, transparency is avoided, and that imbalance always turns toxic. This whole loyalty is demanded thing it blows my mind as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I love loyalty, and I think loyalty is an important characteristic, an important thing to practice, but it's not demanded, it's earned. And it's earned through consistently showing up, respecting your training partners, and putting value in place where value is needed. So loyalty is very important, but it's not demanded. It's earned through effort and mutual respect. And that needs to be transparent. And when I say transparency is avoided, a lot of times it's hard to have these conversations. Yeah, you can go cross-train, and you should cross-train. If you're not allowed to cross-train, that's a problem. But your home base, your loyal allegiance to your team is important. And any coach on earth that says it doesn't hurt their feelings when you leave to go somewhere else, they're lying. It hurts. You spend so much time, energy, and efforts pouring into somebody, and then they just leave for the new trendy school, the Gucci gym that looks better, sounds better. That hurts your feelings. But if you, like me, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I'm very outspoken in my beliefs and what I think, and it hurts my feelings. But I try to be transparent about that, share that with the people around me. And again, that just goes back to the loyalty being earned, the respect being earned, instead of demanding it or begging for it. Stupid rules with no purpose. Dress codes, mat rules, and the old quote, that's just how we do it, policies that don't improve safety, learning, or culture, only compliance. So if you're doing these things only to drive compliance and obedience into the gym members, again, that's putting you on that pedestal That's you demanding the obedience and compliance more than earning it. Again, these policies, any policy that your gym puts in place, it should be to improve safety, learning, or the culture. And I'm kind of a fan of uniform policies, but at my core, I hate uniform policies because it goes against everything with the freedom you have as an American. But there's nothing better than your team and uniform policies showing up, looking like a well-oiled machine, matching, and you're out doing the things with your boys. Every sports team I ever played on, there was uniform policies. And when everyone showed up looking good, ready to battle, there's a reason why we like Oregon football, right? They show up in a cool uni, matched, and they push the pace. And it's not to take away from individualism, but there is something cool about it. So I'm a fan of certain dress codes if, it improves the culture. Because I tell you, on a football game, when everybody shows up looking sharp, matching to the team performs better. The team truly performs better. So, but at the same time, I love for people to have individualism. That's one that I struggle with. But if you do that just for sheer compliance, again, that's stupid. It needs to improve the culture. If it improves the culture and you're the kind of person that can push those uniform policies to improve the culture, good for you. Using old school, the quote, old school, as a shield. Tradition becomes a way to avoid explaining decisions or evolving the room. This is big right now. Again, really big. I dealt with this big time when I ditched the old school way of teaching, the methodology that was passed down from generation to generation, into me teaching a constraint-led approach. I lost students over it. But I'm kind of rebellious when it comes to traditionalism. I push back a lot. So if it's a way we teach, train, and work, and it actually is producing results in improving the skills we have within our gym, I'll bump traditionalism in a heartbeat to chase better skill. So that's just an example. And just this blanket quote of old school, that's the way we did it kind of thing, you gotta ditch that stuff. That don't last. Mistaking skill for wisdom. Being good at jiu-jitsu does not equal emotional maturity, leadership ability, or moral clarity. I've met a lot of really, really good jiu-jitsu athletes that suck as human beings. And that's just the way it is. Their skill does not equate to their life skill, doesn't equate to their soft skills, doesn't equate to their social skills. In fact, I think most of us understand this in the jiu-jitsu community. Jiu-jitsu people are weird. Their communication skills suck. And most of them are basement dwellers. That's why they're so good at jiu-jitsu. So, mistaking skill for wisdom. If you're young and new to this jiu-jitsu world, or just gym culture world in general, skill does not equate to wisdom. So you got to bump that idea. Ego over development. When protecting the coach's image matters more than the student growth. Learning stalls and people quietly leave. We definitely don't have that problem. We're doing everything in our power to develop our room to a better skill set. And the truth is, whatever our students do off of the mat in their own time, it doesn't necessarily tarnish me, because I am so outspoken that I'm not worried about someone protecting my image. I'm going to protect my own image. So that's something we don't deal with, about protecting the coach's image. I don't demand that kind of compliance and obedience. But I've seen it. That's why I put it on my bullet points here. If you've got your senior people within your gym culture to that level to where you're that afraid of protecting their image that you can't live your own life, that's a gym culture problem as well. I think they would call that a cult. Fear-based leadership, which goes straight into that. Students stay silent not because they're learning, but because they're afraid of being embarrassed, corrected publicly, or pushed out. Nah, that don't happen. Like, not in our gym. In fact, I'd like to think as a 20-year-old Robert, when I started jiu-jitsu, if I started jiu-jitsu and the coaches I had at that time, was trying to use fear-based leadership, I would have challenged it and bucked it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't have fit in very long there. You see some of this stuff on the internet where there is some fear-based leadership, but honestly, I've never been a part of it, never seen of it. Most of our local gyms and the people I train with, they would buck that too. This fear-based leadership is fake news. Even all of our local gyms, they're not fearful of each other. That's something we don't deal with in our community. Silencing dissent as disrespect. Healthy questions are labeled insubordination, even though growth requires friction. I've done a little bit of study on dog training and how to raise a child. So, when you're raising a kid and they just question everything, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we do this? Why do we have to flush the toilet? Why do we got to brush our teeth? Why do we got to take a shower? It shouldn't be labeled as insubordination. It needs to be looked at as growth through friction. I'm telling you, you go to school, your first day of kindergarten with stanky breath, and the teachers and kids are making fun of you for stanky breath because you ain't brushing your teeth. You're going to learn through friction. It's not an insubordination thing. So pushing back on some of this stuff is what's needed to grow the room in general. And it's trial and error like anything else. You go try these things, see what works, what doesn't work, embrace some of that friction, and pivot from that. Confusing discipline with domination. Structure and accountability matter. Control for control's sake is insecurity, not leadership. We get people scrapping sometimes, and when those people get to scrapping, I let it go. It's what is going to forge them and their relationship and their brains into if they can handle this or not. To discipline somebody for the way they train and the way they push blows my mind. One of my biggest pet peeves is when a white belt is going crazy, right? They're spazzing, they're pushing, they've elbowed you 10 times, and you see a senior belt tell them, hey, try using technique, stop spazzing out. Well, the only physical attribute they have at the moment is spazzing. We shouldn't vilify, the spaz. We should tell them to embrace it, keep pushing the pace, make that senior person control you. If you can't control them, that's your problem, not the spaz's problem. I never want to take that fire from one of those people, from someone starting out. In fact, I'd kill to have some of that fire again. I think it would do me some good. But we shouldn't vilify people's attributes. We shouldn't vilify, their spazziness. We never vilify the flexible person, but we're quick to tell the big person, man, you really used a lot of strength there. That's just a cop-out. Like, if you're strong, use it. If you're fast, use it. If you're flexible, use it. If you have cardio for days, you better believe you should use it. Don't worry about this dusty old brown belt that says, oh, you should try using technique instead of that spazziness. Spaz on their tails and make them control you. So don't confuse that discipline with domination. All right, performative humility. Bowing and titles mean nothing if a leader can't apologize, admit fault, or change course. Yeah, that's big. If I'm wrong a lot, it's just part of growth. I never have the right answers, and I'll never explain, or I'll never express that I have all the right answers. Well, I take that back. I do have the right answer, and that's to be as Christ-like as possible. It's just very hard to implement that all the time. And even implementing that in a gym culture where you're trying to acquire skill, to beat people up, it is a form of control that we have to use. But the idea of bowing and having those titles and all the things that come with the cringy jiu-jitsu culture, but you can't admit fault for having, the 40-year-old mom over there bowing on and off the mats as if we're living in Japan circa 1700. It blows my mind too. Pedestals create fragile leaders. When no one challenges you, you stop checking yourself, and that's when real damage happens. Yeah, you always got to challenge yourself. If you're not being challenged and you put yourself up there at that pedestal, then you think you've actually made it, and the truth is you've never made it. You're never going to make it. This life is a journey. It's meant to embrace the journey, the highs and lows. That is what's rewarding, is the journey, not the finish line. So it's just part of it. You get put on that pedestal and you start to become a fragile leader. You got to do something to re-challenge yourself. Challenge the way you teach, challenge the way you think, have students challenge the way you teach and think, and go from there. Moral outsourcing. Some gyms avoid values entirely to dodge responsibility, but culture always fills the vacuum. Don't forget that. Usually with ego and dysfunction. Don't get me wrong, Danaher is a great coach, and everyone has seen those clips or those links that pop up on your social media saying Danaher avoids speaking about morality to his students. Well, maybe he should, because there's been a lot of problems in Texas with the morality of jiu-jitsu athletes. So, because that's the thing. I honestly believe, I'm not sitting here saying that you should preach to your students, but not dodging those responsibilities, and living out the moralities so that the people around you can see it. Do it through action, because like I said, if it's not there, the culture is going to fill that vacuum, and it's important that you've created a good culture to absorb that if it happens. So actually that's in my notes. Coaches shouldn't preach, but they absolutely must model morality. If you lead people physically, you're already influencing them ethically. Gosh, I wrote it way better than I could ever say it. So yeah, if you're leading people in general, and I've been in numerous leadership roles in my professional career, of course in my family, and in the gym. As much as I absolutely hate being in a leadership role, I don't like the responsibility God keeps placing me in these leadership roles. And I'm not the one to sit back and preach to people. I try to do it through my actions more than through my articulation. So we must model that morality, because people are watching, kids are watching, people on the sideline are watching, community members are watching, hell, YouTube's watching, and you gotta practice it. Gyms replacing churches, families, and fathers. You hear Craig Jones talk about it all the time. I'm not your guru. I'm not your counselor. Well, the truth is, gyms and coaches and leaders in your life have been replacing other important figures in your life. Whether coaches want it or not, gyms become surrogate communities, and behaviors carry real weight. So as much as you don't want to be their guru or their counselor, your presence in the community that you're building is a surrogate in that scenario. So you got to act it. You got to act it. You need to be it. You need to step those toes to the line and show that constantly, because you never know who's watching you as a father figure, as a role model. So just fill that void. As much as you don't want to, that person might need you to. All right. Lack of humility at the top. The best rooms are led by coaches who are still students. The worst are led by people who think they've arrived. I don't think this is as prevalent as it sounds. I wrote it down because you hear about it on the internet and people talk about it. But honestly, most of the coaches that I've ever come across, and a lot of the leaders that I've stumbled across, they're forever students, and they do a good job with this one. So some of these things you hear about online and hear students talk about, I think they buy into it more than what it actually is. But that's an immediate red flag, and I think everybody on earth would notice that. If you step into a place and there's zero humility at the top and they just think they have the answers to all things, then that's not the place to be, and that's pretty common sense. The real responsibility of a coach. I'll be very short with this one. I'm going to read what I wrote and expand on it. But the truth is, your job as a coach is to produce a conducive learning environment. That's it. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. You need to produce a conducive learning environment. In order to produce a conducive learning environment, bills have got to get paid. Culture's got to be high. Skill acquisition has to be moving in the right direction. Egos have to be in check. Humility has to be present. Leadership skills have to be present. Communication skills always need to be improving. You need to be a student of the game, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. That's the fact. But to keep it down to one sentence, you need to produce a conducive learning environment to where all those things can take place. So even down to the physical environment, clean mats, fresh air, water to drink at the bare minimum. In today's world, you need showers. What I really want is I want a humongous dehumidifier that would really, I think, enhance our environment. But I just don't know if it can keep up in the South, but that would be cool. Y'all let me know if you know anything about big humidifiers or big dehumidifiers, if that'll help. But that's the real responsibility of a coach. That's one of my jiu-jitsu guys there. I thought he was blue lighting me. That was one of my guys driving past. All right, so the real responsibility of a jiu-jitsu coach is produce a conducive learning environment. Not to control lives, but to live with integrity, restraint, honesty, and service, and guide others by example. So again, leading others through your actions, not your articulation, and maintaining a conducive learning environment so the rest of the culture can expand the way that it should. All right, there's my hot takes, my long rants, things I believe we do really good at our gym. There's things there I definitely think we can improve upon. But we're young, we're growing, we're testing the waters, we're seeing what we can and can't do, and we're trying to grow from it. One thing you're not going to catch us doing, though, is bowing to pictures on the wall, turning our backs to people tying their belts. I didn't express it in this video, but one of my pet peeves is when two young bucks are getting after it, and they're rolling into the dusty brown belts beside you, and the dusty brown belt says, hey, y'all scoot over when we're sparring. Crowd those losers. Crowd those losers. You're on fire. Keep that intensity up. Those dusty old brown belts can go sit on the wall where they belong. You keep that fire in you. You pin the people. You beat them up. Don't listen to that dusty old guy. And that same dusty old guy that wants to stand at the top of the line when the brand new trial white belt wants to come in, and they don't know where to line up because it's their first day in class. And they're trying to figure out where to line up just to shake hands when they leave. And that old fart at the end says, hey, get to the end of the line. Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Gosh, because we're doing everything in our power to get more students in, to keep them, to retain them. We're doing everything we possibly can without watering down the sport. So you get that new person that's finally built the courage up to come in there, and that dusty old brown belt with the receding hairline says, hey, get to the end of the line. Gosh, don't let me catch you doing that. Because then I'll probably publicly humiliate you. Then I'm going to create a bad gym environment. And then I'm going to go into bankruptcy and foreclosure, and it's a big downhill spiral from there. But don't do that crap. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in. See y'all on the mats. Appreciate it.